Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really quickly, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding and that I'm hearing this correctly, and that I'm interpreting it correctly, is that in council, you just spoke on this, but I'm just trying to clarify. Whatever the design is, and whatever the final engineering and the cost and all of that is going to be, before shelving hits the ground, that needs to come back in front of the council. The garage, the design, the cost, everything that's associated with it, before shelving even hits the ground, it has to come back in front of the council again, even though those funds are included in this vote tonight, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
I'm just reiterating this and just saying it for my own sake to make sure I'm understanding this, that with the garage, with the design, the final design, the final engineering, the construction plan, cost, all of that, before shovel hits the ground, it has to come back in front of the council again, correct?
It will be back before the council is correct.
Thank you, Mr.
Any further questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Gary?
I would make a motion to that the 80 million authorization pass.
There's a motion on the floor to move approval on $80 million appropriation, Council Order 2017-073.
On the motion.
On the motion.
I would move that we amend the language to include any parking structure funded by this order shall be for an above-ground structure only. I think that's consistent with option number 3, which would save the taxpayers $8 million. I just don't know how we wouldn't further explore that option. My preference would be that we not have to decide this at this point, but it seems like, given the timeline in front of us, it needs to be decided. And I don't see how, if there's no loss of the aesthetics, if you're talking about 11 feet, to save the taxpayers $8 million, and that's the only difference, I don't see how we would go forward with option 3 and not option 4 to save that $8 million for folks. So I put that in the form of a motion.
Just a point of clarification, it's option 4, I think it's 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, option 4 is consistent with option 4, I was looking at option 2. Consistent with option 4, which is an all above ground garage.
Can you just repeat, please?
Yep.
Your,
The amendment would be adding the language to Council Orders 2017-73. Any parking structure funded by this order shall be for an all above grade structure only.
And if I may, any further discussion on that motion? You know, I absolutely, and I get it, the sequencing, I do want to point out the hard work of the team, but I have to say, you know, I do think we should explore that option 4 a little more closely, because the reality is, you know, you're giving up 3 parking spaces, but not compromising. The line items carry $1 million invested in the facade in both proposals. You're going up 11 feet, and yeah, close to $8 million is a real savings. So we are voting before council first.
On the motion.
On the amended motion.
On the amendment of the motion. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Curie. Councilor Finn previously mentioned the LDA that we have passed through this body. Can you explain to me or clarify relative to the garage construction, because it is happening concurrent with the Will project, and part of which the design and the build is happening concurrent. It's my understanding that it was language relative to the garage construction was provided in the LDA, and I'm just looking for an explanation of consistency of what was previously before us and what's pending here and now. Could you please clarify?
In looking at the language that for this evening, in preparation for this evening, it was contemplated that, and this is the reason Kennedy is the contractor, that the O'Connell project and the garage would be built by the same contractor for a variety of efficiencies that have been mentioned in prior testimony. And Mr. Stevens showed the language that references specifically the foundation, the basement of O'Connell building, that foundation would be built simultaneously with the foundation for the garage. And the LDA does reference that there would be an underground component to the garage that interfaces with the O'Connell building. So the language of the LDA does, that was approved, does include the subterranean component as an element of the garage.
And so then why then was the option provided with above ground only?
Because Council Belmucci asked for.
Oh, subsequent to his request, the numbers were then provided, it wasn't, this
Yes.
option was not on the deck
It
prior to?
it was not one of the options. We looked at various options, but that was not one of the options for,
Prior to the LDA, I mean, the garage discussion and the planning has been underway for a while. And at that point, it's always been contemplated that underground.
yes.
Seeking cost savings, Council Calhoun asked for alternate options.
That's
We
correct.
provided that homework and the information as requested.
That is correct.
However, the commitment that this body made through the LTA process incorporated an underground level.
Yes.
So we would then, if potentially walking through the legality of us, if it was to be voted, let's say this $8 million, we're then in legally what would that do for the O'Connell project? We are then in,
Well, it was a part of the LDA that both parties agreed made sense for cost savings and for expeditious construction. Obviously, Mr. O'Connell would have, cause that the agreement is different from the agreement that he agreed to.
so we would be the non-compliant party at that point. And the O'Connell garage construction went through the home rule process, and this has been a lot contemplated that the developer.
That is correct.
While I do appreciate the opportunity to save the taxpayer $8 million, I don't think I can support this amendment to then put us in a negative position relative to the project that has long invested before us. We, this body, made this commitment prior, that it would have the underground structure at the time made that amendment was prior to that discussion.
That's correct.
We understand the design, still a lot of homework to be done on the design process, but I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Council, Thorson, just for the record, in this deliberation of phase 3, third deliberation, this is when the actual rubber met the road and we were presented with cost projections, correct? Council Calhoun.
Thank you, Bill. A couple of questions for you. This is all new information. I'm rather surprised that it wasn't brought up in the 3 hours of questions surrounding a lesser expensive alternative that always contemplated above ground only that we had Thursday, nor was it accompanied in your emails to the councilors on Friday or in any of our discussions today that we had about the above ground option. So again, I feel like we're shooting from the hip here. This is like giving us a report that references a 116 unit hotel space that's going to be built in the downtown, where it's just factually, the ground's always shifting here. We ask questions, we're about to take a vote, now the ground's shifted, okay? Now it's, when we first had this discussion Thursday, had someone said, well, no, you'd be in breach of the LDA if you built an above ground only garage, that would have ended the discussion, I think. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have pushed it forward if that was the information I was providing, but I wasn't. I mean, you could see why this is difficult to take at this late hour when there's a motion on the floor. It's baffling to me. So this was discussed with Attorney Shea. Option 4 was discussed with Attorney Shea, the City Council's attorney for the LD in the downtown process. Because he's not here tonight, so I can't ask my attorney whether or not what you're telling me is true or not. He is here?
I did not discuss the LDA with Attorney Shea. I did speak with Attorney Shea however, a couple of times. And we did not discuss the LDA, and I apologize to you and the board. I concentrate on answering the questions, and the provision in the LDA had slipped my mind, to be candid with you, when I was concentrating on everything else. But I just looked at it, and now it refreshes my memory.
Well, I mean, we have gagging professionals who've been here during the whole time, and nobody else raised it either. 7 or 8 different people took the microphone. So while I appreciate it could have slipped your mind, the fact that it collectively slipped everyone's mind, I have a difficult time. And I would love, had I known that this was going to be an issue, and when we had a telephone conversation earlier today, or perhaps an email on Friday, if I had known it was going to be an issue, I would have requested Attorney Shea be here so I could ask him. Or I would have requested the ability to have some time to make a phone call, I feel like I need to dial a friend here. But so now let's get to the heart of it. So now it's a legal issue, right? All right. So I'm reading the land disposition agreement by and between the City of Quincy and Chestnut Place LLC, and I reject your premise, okay, based upon my reading of the LDA. I'll refer to the pertinent pages, starts on page 9 when it discusses parking. Section 12, parking arrangements. A, relationship of the project and the city parking garages. Going down to the 4th or 5th sentence. The city acknowledges and agrees, however, that the required spaces shall exclusively serve the project, referring to the O'Connell project, and shall be located in that part of the lower level of the garage attached to the project. It does not say that that is subterranean. That section, and I can't find a section that says it's subterranean. There's one reference to a basement level connection, but it's not a requirement. It simply says if that's in concert with the design of the garage, that's what will happen. Nowhere in this LDA, sir, with all due respect, does it say it has to be subterranean. There's one particular section that says, especially when it's talking about section 12, parking arrangements, subsection B, design and construction of the garage, subsection I, coordination of construction of the garage and the project. Third sentence says, in part, especially the basement level connections. But all it's referring to is will need to be coordinated with the design, construction, and opening of the project, and executed in concert with the design and construction of the integrated components of the project in the garage. It doesn't say that there is a legal requirement that there is an underground connection, just that if there is going to be a basement level connection, it needs to be coordinated with the design, construction, and opening of the project.
It does, however, say in a garage located in part under.
What section are you referring to?
Section 12A, relationship of the project with the city garage.
Mm-hmm.
In order for the project to be operated, it will require approximately, but no less than 130 parking spaces to be available to its tenants and occupants, the required spaces, in a garage located in part under and in part adjacent to the property, the garage.
So you're saying, your reading of that is a strict interpretation that we need to build a subterranean garage?
Well, my interpretation is that that was the intent of the parties. And in a contract, that's important. And if the parties do not agree that it should be altered, one of the parties or the two parties does not agree, that gives that party, I think, the opportunity not to proceed.
Okay, so what's the additional cost to Mr. O'Connell if we build an above-grade garage, an above-ground garage?
I don't know what the additional cost of Mr. O'Connell would be. That's for them to determine.
Right, but if we're saying that you think he could walk from the LDA, which I don't have enough information to agree, disagree, or take issue with, okay? I don't know, because again, this is just, this is information that's like 5 minutes old that it's in the LDA. But assuming he would only walk if there was some sort of financial difficulty in us not connecting to his basement.
I don't know if that would be his only concern. I think he would have other concerns. And as I
So
say,
what would the other concerns be?
he thought it was important for his parking spaces to be contiguous to his building, and the way that that would work is in a subterranean area. Even though it doesn't say subterranean, I think we understand under, and we certainly understood the lower level to mean a basement.
I mean, I don't, words have meanings in legal contracts. I don't know that again, I don't disagree with that, but I don't know that I agree with that. I would like to see outside counsel's opinion on that. I mean, just reading these sections, the redeveloper shall construct a garage pursuant to the terms of the design-build contract independent of the project. There are mechanisms in place that separate the garage from the LDA.
And there were reasons for that. It was to be built independent because it's going to be priced independently. It's going to be subject to prevailing wage, whereas the private project will not be subject.
So, I mean, this
By
really,
law, just
I'm sorry.
prevailing wage.
So this, I mean, this strikes me as problematic because we were told that it was, you know, it made so much sense for the taxpayer to have Mr. O'Connell design or to build the garage when they were building their building. We were told there was going to be significant savings in both time and resources. And now we're presented with an $8 million increase in cost simply to meet his choice, presumably, for the garage to service the entire community, that the taxpayer is paying for.
It wasn't his choice, it was a mutual choice. It had mutuality of consideration.
Okay, well, I mean, so are we done with the preliminary design?
Mr. Wilson, have you done with the preliminary design?
We've done the functional concepts.
So are we done with the preliminary design?
Functional concepts, yes, very early preliminary design.
Okay. All right, I mean, I can't, I'll go back to Mr. Gary, thank you, Wes. I can't in good conscience take a vote one way or the other without talking to our attorney about this. If now we're talking about contractual language in an agreement that we have with a party, I don't want to jeopardize that. Like that's, again, I go back to what I said to you tonight, which is my goal tonight is to move this project forward. Okay, I did not foresee when I said that this LDA issue was going to be thrown out on the table as a live issue. Otherwise, I would have prepared for it. You know, I believe in good faith that we could move forward with consideration of this tonight, and that we might agree, we might disagree, but in the end, we're going to get something one way or the other. But now, I mean, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how, when we're presented saying that, well, if you take this vote, you're essentially going to be in breach of a contract, we don't talk to our attorney first to find out whether that's true or not. I mean, I don't fault you for not making arrangements for him to be here, because it wasn't something that any of us knew was going to be thrown onto the desk. That it's, well, you breached the contract if you're trying to save the taxpayer $8 million. And obviously, that affects my vote on my own amendment. That affects my vote. If we're contemplating that being in breach of contract, then I would not support that. But if it's not in a breach of contract, then I would support it. Just as Councilor LaForest said, she supports saving the taxpayer $8 million, but if it's going to put us in breach of a contract, then we can't do it. So I don't know how this gets a vote. From my perspective, I cannot vote on this tonight. And I would urge that the body hold off on voting on it until we get an opinion from our lawyer as to whether or not it is a breach of contract in the LDA or not. I mean, we need the information in order to take a vote.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman. Is the amendment being withdrawn?
It is not. No, I still think it's a worthy amendment to save the taxpayers $8 million.
Are we going to have a vote and we'll vote on the amendment? Do we have a second?
We don't need a second.
We don't need a second, can I? I thought that was just restricted to finance, but that's okay. So
clarification, right?
Well, first off, I'm, again, my own reasoning for moving this question this evening to vote on it has absolutely nothing to do with that legal question, although I think it's a very good point that Councilor Forrest probably raises. It has to do what I consider the role of this body to be in relation to the overall part of this project. So we have an amendment, and the question is, are we voting on that amendment? That's my point of order.
I would like to take a recess to see if we can reach our attorney and get him here tonight, and then we'll vote on it. That would be my request now. I think we need to speak to our lawyer to find out whether or not the vote we take would be a breach of contract. I think that's a legitimate request. Had this information been provided to me, if this is a violation of the contract of the LDA in a timely fashion, I would have made sure to have an answer to that. I'm not the one setting the timetable here.
Councilor Kane.
With all due respect, I mean, we voted on the LDA, we know what the LDA is, we anticipated that this was going to be, as presented, first level subterranean project. The new thing is what it is, but these are pieces of information that we were well aware of before. I feel like we're talking in circles somewhat in what we're going to move this forward.
I did not know it was going to be a subterranean garage. When I'm given options, that it's a subterranean and a non-subterranean.
Yeah, we discussed this at length when the O'Connell project was before us and was involved in LDA that this body approved.
What would you like to do with your amendment?
I'm not going to withdraw the amendment. If councilors are comfortable voting on it without having this information, that's fine. I'm not comfortable voting on the amendment until we have an answer from our attorney as to whether or not it's legal. If folks want to vote against it, that's fine. I mean, they're comfortable that they're not going to breach a contract, but I can't vote yes on it without fully knowing whether or not it breaches a contract. So,
Again, I move the question, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Madam Clerk? We're voting on the amendment.
well, we're actually voting on the motion to move the question that Councilor Fenn made.
Who's the chairman?
Yes. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
This is a vote to vote.
Just have the question.
Just to do the vote. We're voting to cut off debate.
And we're going to come back and talk about it. We're going to talk.
No, this cuts off debate, isn't that the one question? It cuts debate off.
Move the question, right. All right, call the roll.
Council King.
Yes.
Councilor DeBona.
Yes.
Councilor Finn.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Forrest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang.
Yes.
Councilor Palmucci.
Yes.
Councilor Hughes.
Yes.
Chairman Paul.
Yes. And members voting in the affirmative. Okay, now we're back to on the amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Council-
We just need the question.
Councilor King.
No.
Councilor DeBona.
No.
Councilor Finn.
No.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Forrest.
No.
Councilor Liang.
Present.
Councilor Palmucci.
Present.
Councilor Hughes.
No.
Chairman Paul.
No.
Yes.
If
No.
we could turn back to the original motion,
The original motion, Council, which is
that we
order
committee
2-0
offers a positive recommendation.
for the appropriation of $80 million for Quincy Center District Improvement Program.
On the motion,
In the motion.
I move that we add language that states no expenditure for a parking structure shall exceed $88 a square foot, which again would be consistent with option number 4.
Do we want point of clarity from folks? I don't know what the math is, that's my point.
That covers option 4, that's why I moved it.
Yep, all right, I see what you're saying. So $87 and
I said $88.
$88. Do you understand the amendment? Call the roll.
Councilor King.
No.
Councilor DeBona.
No.
Councilor Finn.
No.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Forrest.
No.
Councilor Liang.
Yes.
Council Calmucci?
Yes.
Council Hughes?
No.
Chairman Paul?
Yes. Motion fails 5-3.
On the motion, I would move to amend the total bond authorization amount from 80 million to 72 million.
Motion on the floor to cut the appropriation from 80 million to 72. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council King?
No.
Council Vaughn?
No.
Council Finn?
No.
Council Harris? Council LaFarge?
No.
Council Leeang?
No.
Council Calmucci?
Yes.
Council Hughes? No. Oh, Council, sorry, Chairman Paul?
Yes. Motion fails 7 voting in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. All right, back to the original order, which is for the full $80 million authorization. Any discussion on Council Order 2017-07? For discussion, seeing none, Clerk, please call the roll.
Council King?
Yes.
Council Vaughn?
Yes.
Council Finn?
Yes.
Council Harris? Council LaFarge?
Yes.
Council Leeang?
Yes.
Council Calmucci?
No.
Council Hughes?
Yes.
Chairman Paul?
No. Okay, motion passes 7-2. At this point, well, you saw that one item. Okay, so you know there is an item pending in committee right now, which is Council Order 2017. Yeah, 2017-65. If you recall, this was referred back in May, and there's actually apparently a typo on there. Yeah. Staying in committee is a typo. Right. So, pending in committee is a request for $68,170 to be appropriated for the purposes of the 2017 Downtown Historic Quincy Tour Program. I'm going to recognize the auditor, who can just kind of walk us through the mechanics on this, because there were some number confusion. Madam Auditor,
Yes.
in terms of what we're doing, because you'll see the same item appears on tonight's council agenda. I just want folks to realize why.
The item that is in committee currently is for $68,170, which is for the 2017 tourism program. Before you can actually vote for this, there's an item on the agenda that you'll need to vote for during the regularly scheduled meeting for the exact amount, $68,170. And what this is doing is it's transferring money from the hotel motel open space account into the tourism account. Once that item has been voted on, then I would recommend passage of this order that is in committee.
Okay, so we have to do the committee first?
No.
Take this out.
It's required on passing subdivision for us to see,
Yes, it is.
then we go and pass that this evening, and then simply in reports of committees, bring it out.
It was explained to me differently, but okay. At this point, I will recess the Finance Committee